Our previous lesson, we talked about arithmetic sequences. And today we're going to talk about the whole series and how to find the sum of all of the terms in the sequence. So remember, sum means adding. So we're going to add up each and every term, which sometimes is easy when there's only 4 or 5 terms. But when we're talking about a 100-term sequence, instead of adding each individual number, we have a formula. Most of these variables we've seen in the previous lesson. There is one new one, S sub n. S stands for sum. So remember, we have our n is the number of terms in each sequence. A sub 1 is the first. A sub n is the last term in the sequence. D is the difference, so what are we adding or subtracting to get to each? And n is the number of terms in each sequence. So using these equations, let's look at 2 examples. The first example says find the sum of the first 12 terms, and it gives you 1, 4, 7, and it doesn't give us the rest. So just like we did in our previous lesson, let's define our variables. A sub 1, or our first term, is a 1. And it tells us we're adding up the 12 terms, first 12. The A sub n, we don't know the last number in the sequence, but we don't necessarily need that. And the difference is 3. To remind you of the formula we saw on the previous page, S sub n equals the number of terms divided by 2, and then in parentheses, they were kind of hard brackets, 2 times the first number plus the number of terms minus 1 times the difference. And now we can fill in what we know. So we need the sum, we don't know that. The number of terms we have, that's 12. 2 times the first number, so 2 times 1, plus, again the number, we have 12, minus 1 times the difference, which is 3. From here we can simplify and solve. Two plus 11 times 3. So if I wrote out the first 12 terms of the sequence and added each one together, my sum or total would be 210. We'll do one more example. This one says find the sum of the series. It gives us 9 plus 14 plus 19 all the way up to 304. But what it doesn't tell us is how many numbers there are in this series here. So what we need to do is first determine that variable n, how many numbers there are. Then we can plug them into the sum formula. So we're going to go back to the lesson we talked about yesterday and use that formula to figure out how many. So we'll define our variables. The first number is 9. The last number is 304. The difference, it looks like, is adding 5. And our n is our unknown. So the formula from our previous lesson said the very last number equals our first number plus n minus 1 times the difference. Solving for n here. So there are 60 numbers in this series. From there, we can look at one of the new equations we learned today. So that says the sum equals the number there are divided by 2 times, and then in parentheses, our first plus our last. Filling in our variables, we have our sum equals our n is 60 over 2, 9 plus 304. Simplify. Your total sum then for all 60 numbers in this sequence, if we were to write each one out, is 9,390.